So, I did a poll on Twitter. Which show has the better feuds, Raw or SmackDown? Well, 13% says Raw, 87% says SmackDown.
No, baby, that's for somebody else. We're just going to keep you right where you're at right now.
It doesn't matter what you think.
The Wrestling Realm presents Break It Down with Bryan H.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. This is Bryan H. Waters, and welcome to another episode of Break It Down with Bryan H. Now, before we get into today's show, make sure you are locked and loaded and set to go to get this show each and every week on all your podcast platforms by simply going to whether it's iTunes, Spotify, Stitcher, Google Play, or you know what? I'm there too, and that is YouTube, of course. Make sure you are locked and loaded and Podbean. Search the Wrestling Realm and subscribe. And guess what? While you're there, drop a 5-star rating. So I told you today's show was going to be different. I'm going to talk rivalries. You know, I'm sitting here watching SmackDowns, watching Raw. I said, you know what? Let's break down some of these rivalries, man. And it's clear SmackDown has the better rivalries. Let's start with AJ Styles and Samoa Joe. So this rivalry has been going on since after SummerSlam, where actually before SummerSlam. I'm getting WrestleMania and SummerSlam mixed up. My gosh, it's been a long few months. But this rivalry's been going on. And one of the things I've noticed that it's found a way to keep you hooked. I haven't seen so much Feud on social media or so much talk, people saying, can we move on from something? If you remember, a few years ago, there was a rivalry between Randy Orton and Christian. And when Randy Orton and Christian was in their rivalry, we saw people say, look, it's time for Christian to move on. Time for Randy Orton to move on. Samoa Joe and AJ Styles, we haven't seen that. Why? Because they've taken things to a new level. They're going to take on each other in Australia. I kind of want to believe that there's a chance that Samoa Joe will become WWE champion. But again, I've said this time and time again. I've been saying AJ Styles is too hot right now. He's doing something that a lot of guys have not been able to do as a babyface in the company, and that is keep you attached. He's been a straight babyface since last year as the champion, and I'm still hooked. I'm not bothered. I don't see too many people bothered by his championship run. So I'm looking at this, and on SmackDown this past week, we saw him go to another level. What happened? AJ Styles was in the ring waiting for the official contract signing. And then Samoa Joe was not there. Where was he? He started knocking on the doors. Well, he's actually, before he even started knocking the doors, he started walking around. And he said, you know, with technology, you could be anywhere. And I said, uh-oh, he's at his house. One thing, I'm going to nitpick, because that's what I do. I wish they would have said, I wish the mailbox would have said Jones. Everybody knows. You can find their shoot names. I wish they would have said Jones, because I believe there was mention that her name is Wendy Jones, talking about AJ Styles' wife. But it says Styles. So that's just a little nitpick. Like, I really doubt that AJ Styles is going to have Styles there. Just because anybody see him walk in, they're going to know. It's like, oh, that's AJ Styles' house. It's a difference with people say, oh, that's Alan Jones' house. So I really wish that would have said Jones. But nonetheless, the fact that he went there and he had a doll baby, and we saw AJ become vulnerable, and he was just like, come on, Joe. Come on, bro. Stop. And you saw him go to another level. That's the dangerous part, because here is a man who's in a position where he cannot protect his family. He don't know what Samoa Joe's going to do. Samoa Joe's crazy. He wants the WWE Championship, and he's not pleased with the way AJ Styles has been beating him up, whether it's at Hell in a Cell, whether it was at SummerSlam, just tossing him around, throwing him in the barricades, hitting him with chairs. He's not happy. So he knows he's done a lot to this man, and he's like, okay, he's at my home, and I'm thousands of miles away. AJ Styles is in Georgia. His home is in Georgia. Samoa Joe was in Georgia. AJ Styles, with the roster, was in Colorado. You can't get there on no quick flight. Even if you got a corporate jet, it's still going to take hours. So that's why I said this is, perhaps the best feud going into WWE right now. But not too far from that one is the feud between The Miz and Daniel Bryan. Again, match. This goes back. Obviously, this is over 3, 4, 5, 6 years in the making. We're talking when Daniel Bryan was the Miz's young boy, or I should say, make it to be real, his pro on NXT. And Daniel Bryan everybody was like, wait a minute. You have the Miz, who's new to the business, strictly a WWE guy, and then you have this guy named Daniel Bryan, who everybody remember his Bryan Danielson, former Ring of Honor Wrestling World Champion, who had wrestled all over the world. Why does he have to follow after the Miz? That's one of the things people just did not understand. But yet, we went there. And then Daniel Bryan would get his first championship in the WWE when he would beat the Miz for the United States Championship. Miz became a WWE champion before Daniel Bryan. Then we know the story, Bryan getting injured, Miz trolling him while he was injured. This is one of the greatest moments on Talking Smack, where you have the Miz and Daniel Bryan getting into a legitimate shoot where Daniel Bryan literally had to walk off stage. And then when Daniel Bryan's cleared, what's the first thing he does after, he finishes feud with Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn? He signs the Miz. He tries the deal to trade the Miz to SmackDown so he can punch him in the face. So now we finally get this feud going. And what do we have? We got the Miz and Daniel Bryan take over each other at SummerSlam, which we know how that went down. But then we had a rematch, or I shouldn't say a rematch, because Miz won. But then Miz and Maurice taking on Daniel Bryan and Brie Bella. Shout out to my brother Corey, who said, you know what, Miz and Maurice, they'll get a payback since they, I don't want to use the word job, but they lost to Cena and Nikki Bella, which was all the engagement moment, which unfortunately didn't come to fruition. But then, obviously both of them screwy finishes. So we're going to get another match between the two, a Super Showdown. This time the WWE Championship #1 contendership is on the line. Again, this feud goes to a different route. This week on SmackDown, we see the Miz doing the yes kicks. And then how does he finish R-Truth, a guy who he had to wrestle in the Mixed Match Challenge? He hits the running knee and pins him 1, 2, 3. Now, mind you, this is all after the Miz was R-Truth took over the Miz's show and had who? Daniel Bryan. So, like I said, I'm loving these feuds on SmackDown, man. I'm really hooked. I look forward to Tuesdays more than Mondays, which it wasn't. It was a time where SmackDown was really a dud. It was just like, okay. And that was when it was on Friday nights. Now it is the A show. I don't care what y'all say.
Going up to the top rope.
It's time for this week's Top Rope segment of the week.
And moving on to another feud, because this one really has just come to fruition, but it's already good. And that is Rusev and Aiden English. And you have Lana being a wild card. So let me tell you the reason why I like this feud and why it's different. You have Rusev and Aiden English, who were kind of thrown together. Aiden English's career became relevant again because he started singing Rusev Day. Now, mind you, if you remember, Aiden English team with Simon Gotch, I forgot, the Vaudevillains, and they just wasn't very entertaining. But now Aiden English has found himself. Simon Gotch got fired and he's out of the company. But he's found the stick where he could sing Rusev Day, and he's it's gotten Rusev over to a new level. So I wasn't happy about the two breaking up. But, after watching SmackDown, I said, you know what? This might not be a bad idea. Because we saw Aiden English kind of create, he's talking about the relationship they had now while he was the one that turned on Rusev. After Rusev, he caused Rusev some matches, and Rusev said, look, man, I just don't need you to be in this match. And one time too many, then he just got irritated. He beat him up. The one thing he did was create doubt because he said it was Lana's fault. And then he told Rusev, asked Lana to talk about that night in Milwaukee. So now Rusev can say all that he wants, says he believe him, but there was doubt created because while that's his wife and that's somebody he always believed, he asked the question and he said, why Milwaukee? Why would you name? You guys are traveling all over the world. Why was that one city so special? So kind of interested to see where this goes. Usually you see two guys fighting over a girl, but in this case you see a guy planting a seed and making something up. So it's different. It's definitely different than the Mega Powers exploding, where you had one guy being jealous because he thought somebody else was hitting on his wife. You know, you kind of have it in reverse faction here. So I really want to see where this goes. And before I take a break, I got to talk about another feud, the best women's feud in wrestling right now, and that is Charlotte and Becky Lynch. This week we saw Charlotte taking promo pics, and Becky Lynch just went out there and just attacked her during the photo shoots. Like, who does that? You know, you would think Becky Lynch is satisfied. She's the champion, but she has a point to prove. She wants Charlotte Flair to understand that, look, I'm the best. You know, I am really the best right now. So it's just interesting to see where it goes from there. I'm like, sheesh, man. You know, I don't know, man. I don't know where this is going, but I'm going to enjoy every bit of it. I would love to see the main event Evolution. Not sure, because they'll probably have Ronda Rousey main event the show, but I think this would definitely be a good way to cap off this rivalry by having them main event the biggest women's show of the year. So I'm going to go ahead and take a break. I got one of my buddies on who's celebrating an anniversary this week. So I'll go ahead and roll that footage sound, and then I'll let you know what it is.
What's good, everybody? This your boy Drizzy Dre, Mr. One and Only from the Flex Zone, Mondays at 10 p.m. on WBGR. And right now you are listening to Break It Down with my boy Bryan H, brought to you by the Wrestling Realm.
That is my boy Dre. Shout out to the Flex Zone. Episode 200 just celebrated this past Monday. Make sure you are subscribed to them. Shout out to Dre, Cravante, Byron, D, and Roger. My boys, my brothers. Talk to them every day. Enjoy the show. Like I said, make sure you check them out each and every week. Search the Flex Zone on YouTube, the first one, and I guarantee you will be entertained. One of the things I look forward to is Cravante's Goofy of the Week, where he discusses all the goofiness happening in sports. And then they also have a In the Zone segment where, you know, they sit down and they just, you know, no pun intended, but break down some of the discussions that, you know, they might not get a chance to go in depth on the actual show, but they actually take the time to break that stuff down on the In the Zone. And shout out to their producer AJ holding it down. So make sure you check them out each and every week. I promise you, you will be entertained. So, you know, it's episode 200 for them. I had the pleasure of being on over 10 of those episodes, so just had to give them a little love for a minute. So with that being said, it's time to get into the Tapped Out.
Here's our Tapped Out segment of the week.
You know, Monday night has been named Monday Night Quill by my good buddy D from the Flex Zone, and this week some parts of it lived up to his name. And for that, my Tapped Out was this feud between Braun Strowman and Ziggler, and Braun Strowman, Ziggler, and McIntyre going up against the Shield. So I don't hate the feud. Let's get that started. Let's start right there. I don't hate the feud. What I hated this week, or I should say the thing I did not like the most, was them trying to take a member from one team to the other. What do I mean? So you have the Dolph Ziggler kind of letting Dean Ambrose know, hey man, you know, you're the only one that do not have gold. And when you were gone, Seth Rollins just got another tag team partner when you guys were tag team champs. So I'm like, what? Like, what's the point? First of all, like, why are you doing this? And then, you know, throughout the night, they went to talk to him and say, look, you know, you need to come join up with us. Like, there's no point in being with them. So all this is going on. And I'm like, yo, all right, whatever. Then you had Seth Rollins go to Drew McIntyre telling him, you're being used. Dolph Ziggler is just using you, and Braun Strowman is using you. Again, what's the point? Like, why not just have a feud? Like, the whole night they spent doing that. So that's my Tapped Out. It's not a feud that I'm really enjoying. It could be better. To me, the feud just doesn't need to drag on. Like, if Braun Strowman didn't get the belt, some people think it was a waste. I don't necessarily say it was a waste. It is what it is, but just move on, you know. Let Roman, let's see what else Roman can do. Who else can he feud with? Or just keep it between them. Will Ziggler and McIntyre lose the belts to Rollins and Ambrose? No, then move on. Seth Rollins is holding the Intercontinental Championship and not doing a darn thing with it. That is a problem. That title could be around the waist of somebody like a Bobby Roode, a Kevin Owens. Shoot, you could put the belt around Elias. But Seth Rollins has it. He's just kind of holding the belt hostage. That's where I have a problem with. That is the reason why I am not fond of this feud. So, anyway, let's move on to a better feud. So, I guess I'm back. So, just a little breaking down the fourth wall here. I was about to talk about Baron Corbin and Stephanie McMahon. I know my good buddy Glenn Thomas will get a kick out of this. And then my app crashed. So guess what? Not going to talk about him because that's what happens. My computer just likes to crash, and that sets me back about 20 minutes. Anyway, so staying with feuds, the Bellas and the Riot Squad. So this has been very interesting, to say the least. We saw this past Monday. Brie Bella went for, the patented yes kicks, and she kicked Liv Morgan right dead in the face. So I'm not going to get into whose fault it is and whose fault it's not. Here's what I will say. Nobody that is a man listening to this show knows what it's like to be Brie Bella. Obviously, we don't know what it's like to be a woman. But no man knows what it's like to come back to wrestle after delivering another human life. So I would suggest everybody reserve all criticisms, because usually you could say, well, you can get in the ring and try it yourself before you make certain things, or certain things should be common sense. Here's the thing. Like, we don't know what it's like to have a baby. Therefore, I will not criticize Brie Bella. Sure, the kicks could have been one way. Sure, did Liv Morgan move? Did Liv Morgan take the move the right way? We could ask all these questions. The reason why I'm reserving judgment is because I do not know what it's like to recover having a child and trying to get back in the ring to wrestle. Her body, the way she may have known it before, may not be the same. So I'm just going to leave it right there. So I know a lot of people might not like what I just said. It's just the truth. Nonetheless, this feud is okay. I don't hate it, don't love it, but all the women get to showcase their talents on Monday Night Raw. That's fine. So it is what it is. But we'll see them team up with Ronda Rousey, and they'll have a match at Super Showdown, which I'll talk more about Ronda Rousey later in the final segment. But nonetheless, that'll be interesting. And then the last feud, Naomi and Asuka taking on, feuding with the Iconics. This is very interesting. This week we saw Naomi and Asuka defeat Sonya Deville and Mandy Rose. Just another chapter because the Iconics was on commentary. I do like this. It gives more women a chance to be on TV. That's not about the title. We're seeing the standards have been raised. The standards for women's wrestling has been raised, if you haven't noticed. It's not just about wrestling. It's about, can you tell a story? We wanted evolution. We got it. The same evolution, or whatever you want to call it, that we saw in the independent circuit. If you were watching women's wrestling at Shimmer or WSU or Rise or whatever all women's promotion, you will know that it wasn't just about the wrestling. It was about the story they could tell in the ring and the wrestling. And now the WWE has all the best women's wrestlers in the world, folks. Yeah, sure, there's some good ones out there still. But I'm sorry, I don't think there's anybody out there better than Charlotte Flair or better than Bayley in the ring or better than Becky Lynch. I'll ask anybody, send me 3 women that's better than the 3 of them. Chances are you probably will not be able to. So that's where we at. So I got another podcast. I want to introduce you to a new one. So I'm gonna go ahead and take a break, and I got a word from my man, The Truth.
Hey, let's get it. It's your boy, The Truth, from the Part of My Bullshit podcast, available everywhere on iTunes, Spotify, and all your major channels. Also, check us out on social media at the PMB Pod. Now we about to kick it back to my man, Bryan H, with Break It Down with Bryan H, brought to you by the Wrestling Realm. Peace.
And I'm back, ladies and gentlemen. So that is my little bro, The Truth. Shout out to my boy. Make sure you check out the PMB Podcast, talking about each and everything you need to hear, not stuff you want to hear. I would just say this: it's really cool to see two brothers talk about stuff more than just sports and wrestling. And I'm not dissing myself, because I just put over the Flex Zone for about a minute and a half, and I put over other shows as well as my own. I have a wrestling show. What I'm saying is, it's really good that we have a variety. So for those out there, you need to be tuning in and figuring out what's going on in life, different news. And that's what the PMB Podcast does a lot of time. One of the things I like was they actually talked about mental health. That's something a lot of people do not talk about. So not going to give it away. Just make sure you check the show out. Follow me at Bryan H. Waters, because I'll make sure I'm always tweeting them or retweeting them. If you haven't noticed, if you've been following me, you'll notice that I often tweet a lot of shows that I'm listening to. So I try to, if I'm in the car driving, which I listen to a lot of shows there, I might not be able to, but if I'm sitting here playing NBA 2K or WWE 2K, which is coming out soon, and Madden, I'll tweet out the show. So I'm going to get ready to close this up. But before we go, of course, I got to close things out, which I'm going to talk about some friendships that could become feuds. Let's start off with Randy Orton and Shinsuke. What kind of relationship is going on? So we obviously, Jeff Hardy lost the United States Championship to Shinsuke Nakamura. During this time, we saw Randy Orton return and out of nowhere picked a feud with Jeff Hardy, which that would lead to their feud and their match at Hell in a Cell. On Smackdown this past Tuesday, Shinsuke had a match with Todd Dillinger. All of a sudden, here comes Randy Orton. And Randy Orton beats up Todd Dillinger, and he talks about get that perfect 10 crap out of here, pretty much. And I have to agree with him. There's nothing about Todd Dillinger that I see that is a perfect 10. I'm just being honest. There's is nothing I see. I really don't care for his look, don't care for his hairstyle. There's nothing I see that's a perfect 10. But you have Randy Orton come out there to say that. But I'm thinking maybe this is not just about Todd Dillinger. Maybe this is more about Shinsuke Nakamura. Could we see a feud develop between these two guys? That is what I'm waiting to see. Will this ultimately be a collision crash? Collision crash between Orton and Shinsuke within the next months to come. So then we have Ember Moon and Nia Jax. You have these two ladies who have this new friendship. This makes me wonder, what is going on between them two? Will we see a feud develop here? Will Nia Jax turn on her? Will Ember Moon turn on Nia Jax? We haven't seen a heel Ember Moon in the WWE. Maybe that's where that's going. So that's another one of those friendships I'm wondering. I got a little question about. And then there's Bobby Roode and Chad Gable. So this is one I'm begging to happen. Let's make this a feud, folks. Please, let's make this a feud. I don't need to see this. It's just, I've said this last week. I want to see more from Bobby Roode. So I'm hoping this happens. Only time will tell. And last but certainly not least, I got to address it because the rumors are that Nikki Bella will take on Ronda Rousey for the Women's Championship at Evolution. So that makes me wonder, will Nikki Bella and Ronda Rousey have a feud? Only time will tell, folks. Only time will tell. I realize I did miss a feud, and I'm going to have to talk about it because guess what? It's my show. I can format it the way I want. Right now, we seeing a feud with Kevin Owens and Elias kind of teaming up to go against the Man of the Hour, Lio Rush and Bobby Lashley. That's another interesting feud. Those aren't feuds I see breaking up, though. Kind of bring this full circle. I don't see like Bobby Lashley and Lio Rush having a feud. My gosh, I don't want to even see that. I heard Jim Ross put over Lio Rush, said there's money if creative can stick with it. Maybe we'll see Bobby Lashley become a heel. We haven't seen that in the WWE. Maybe we'll see that. Maybe we'll see Kevin Owens and Elias have a feud. I don't see that happening, but you just never know. I can't see those two sticking together too much longer, though. So, only time will tell. Ladies and gentlemen, it's time to wrap this thing up. Make sure you are subscribed to the Wrestling Room. Make sure you check out this week's Wrestling for the Culture, where, last week's Wrestling for the Culture, where one of the highlights was Jocelyn Navarro making history, becoming the first women's champion of her Fed. Another big thing, shout out, I guess we can go ahead and say it, the Dirt Sheets have said it. Congratulations to Mia Yim officially signing with the WWE. I'm very happy. Like I said, I've mentioned on this show before, she was one of the first people to give me an interview when I was just starting out in this business, and from the print standpoint and the video standpoint. So obviously I'm happy for her. Congratulations to her. I had a good opportunity before to travel up and down the roads with her. And, going back to WrestleMania 29 weekend when she took on Karma, or you want to call her Awesome Kong, at Shimmer. So they opened the show. So to see her make it and achieve her dreams at the WWE is something that's very exciting. Ladies and gentlemen, make sure you subscribe. Make sure you drop a rating, drop a comment. Until the next time, folks, I'm Brian H. Waters. So long, everybody.